Hello and welcome to another Math and Physics with Meghan video. Today I'm going to be tackling a subject that gives people a little bit of grief sometimes, and that is solving word problems. So this subject is a little bit daunting, I think, to people when they are first seeing it, because we're being given basically everything in words, and we're given very little numbers to work with, and that's not math as we're used to with a lot of math problems. We're given a whole pile of numbers and then we just have to deal with the numbers. So one thing that we have to get used to when we're solving word problems is how can we take the written language and parse that into mathematics and equations. So the techniques that I'm going to be talking about today can be applied to all kinds of word problems. I have chosen just to do a very simple problem here. So we're going to be tackling the following thing. We need to find two consecutive numbers that have a sum of 51. So the first thing that you want to do is write out some statements about what variables you're going to be using. So this question is asking us to find two numbers. So what I want to do is I want to choose two letters to represent those numbers, because I don't know what those numbers are yet, so they need to be variables. So I'm going to choose X and Y. That's usually a good choice. It doesn't really matter. And because the problem talks about consecutive numbers, one is going to be bigger than the other one. So I'm just going to, in my statement, put as much information as I can, and I'm going to say let X be the smaller number and let Y be the bigger number. So when you are doing word problems, you don't always have to write out a statement, a let statement. You can just maybe jot down a little note to yourself or something. But the point is here is to make a conscious decision about what variables you're going to be using and make it as specific as possible. One is smaller, one is bigger. Okay, and then the next part is the hard part. So the next part is to create the equations. And since we have two variables here, we need to be creating two equations. And that is, a general rule. So if you have three variables, then you're going to need to create three equations, and so on and so forth. So two variables, I'm looking for two equations here. And usually what I like to do is think about equations as coming from different pieces of information in the problem. So what information have I been given about these two numbers? Well, first of all, I've been told that they have a sum of 51. So that means when I add one to the other, X plus Y, I had better get 51. Okay, so that's me taking the information in English and parsing it out into mathematics. X plus Y equals 51. They have a sum of 51. So that's equation number one, and I'm going to label it as such. And then for a second equation, I need to pick out a second piece of information. Okay, the only other information I really have been given is that they are consecutive numbers. Okay, and what that means is that they come right after each other on the number line. So for example, 2 and 3, those would be a pair of consecutive numbers. 3 and 4, 18 and 19, etc., etc. So what that tells me is that if I have the smaller number, all I have to do is add 1 onto it to get the bigger number. So there I go. I have my second equation. X plus 1 equals Y. So if I have X, I just add 1 onto it and I get Y. So for example, if if x happened to be 3, I add 1 onto it, y is 4. So this is equation number 2, and now I have my 2 equations. So I can go ahead and solve these equations and hopefully get to the final answer. Now, the first step of solving is usually to isolate one of the variables. Now, we can see in equation 2 that y is actually already by itself. So that step is basically already taken care of for us. So what I mean by isolating is that we want to have an equation where it's simply just one of the variables alone on one side of the equation. So that's already done for us. I don't really need to worry about that. The next thing I can do is take that isolated equation and plug it into the other one. So I'm going to take y equals x plus 1 and plug into equation 1. Okay, so what that means is that anywhere that I see a y in equation 1, I'm going to replace it with x plus 1 because y is equal to x plus 1. So instead of x plus y equals 51, I'm going to put x plus 1. I just took the y and I replaced it with x plus 1. So now I know that x plus 1 is 51. And I'm going to put my two x's together, and that'll give me 2x plus 1 is 51. And now I just need to go ahead and solve this for x. So when you're rearranging an equation like this, you're trying to get something by itself, you need to start unpacking the things that are kind of hanging on around it. So for example, the plus 1, we need to get rid of that and take it to the other side. So you can think about this as either just moving it to the other side and it becomes negative, or you can think about the fact that you are subtracting 1 from each side. Okay, so if you subtract 1 from each side, that'll get rid of the 1 on the left-hand side because it becomes 0. And then you'll have 51 minus 1 on the other side, which gives you 50. So then the next step is 2x, the 1 is gone, is equal to 50. Okay, and finally, I want to isolate for x, so I need to get rid of that number multiplying onto it, the 2. So to undo a multiplication, I'm going to divide. And so I'm going to divide each side here by 2. And that'll get rid of the 2 on the left-hand side, and I will be left with 50 divided by 2 on the right-hand side. So that gives me x is equal to 25. So now I have x. This is great. I'm halfway there. And so I just need to figure out what y is. And I can just go ahead and plug in x back into equation 2. So if x is 25, then we add 1 and we get y. So this means that y is equal to 26. So there you have it. We have two consecutive numbers, one after the other, 25 and 26. And when you add them up, you get a sum of 51. And then if you are writing this question formally, then you would likely also include a therefore statement. At this point, you would just say therefore the two numbers are 25 and 26, just so it's super clear what you found. So I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please feel free to share it with your friends and family, and feel free to like my page or subscribe for more videos like this. Have a good day. Bye.